Good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Philosophy of Information, where we will try to analyze events of our time with a philosophical perspective. My name is Andre Meloche, and I have the pleasure to welcome David Gardner, who will be hosting with me this three-part series on the history of Buddhism. David, thank you for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing well. The humidity of July has subsided with cold rain, so that's great. I'm doing good. Looking forward to this discussion. A little nervous. It's been a while since I've done a podcast, but and we got a lot to get through, my friend. But anyway, doing good, I guess. But I'm ready.
Sorry, I wanted to add the right, or just remove this and add this. So
yeah. We got a lot of slides.
Yes.
I brought a lot of slides. Andre's got a lot of slides.
You did. And yes, we've been working on this small series since 4 weeks now, preparing it and having some discussion. Could you describe the three episodes, what we will talk about? Episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3 today and for the next two Friday.
Yep, sure. Just make sure I'm sharing on my thing over there correctly. Yeah. Okay. Episode 1, we're going to talk about the history. That's today. And it's going to be in my own way, really. I mean, I've studied this in an academic setting for quite some time and throughout my later years. So I don't know, 25 years, kind of just having interest in Buddhism generally, reading about it. And they got lots of books here to show you. You're never going to believe it. Doctrines, schools of thought, concepts, vocabulary, methods, as it says right there. And to elaborate more on that part 1, what we're going to get into, the question you asked me more so was like, David, what is Buddhism? Is it a religion or is it a practice? What is the philosophy here? And what about the cosmology? So that's really the big first question that we're going to get into. A little bit about the origins, right? What is the origin of this religion? Very academic here. We're just very nuts and bolts on this. But I mean, my own thoughts and about the topic, and from my own podcast, people may know that I do analyze society from more of a transhumanist lens, and which has its own strange spiritual element to it. We like to look at the Western world in general, and having studied Buddhism so long, I can tell you I got some interesting perspectives maybe to offer. But today, really, I'm trying to stick to just the history for your interest type of things. So part 1, stuff like that, right? And who is the Dalai Lama? What's the deal? And a few scandals going on with him. And this whole reincarnation stuff, the Tulkus, he's the 14th reincarnation of somebody, right? So we'll get down to the bottom of it. I can explain a few things about it. True or false, up to you. And question 4 of 5, we got about 5 things here for part 1. Could you explain to us the doctrines and schools of thought related to Buddhism? So yes, we're going to jump around from country to country. Japan, China, well, not China so much, because it's for Zen. When we talk about Zen briefly, Japan, Southeast Asia, Cambodia, and so forth. India, of course, and Tibet big time, because this is kind of what I know the most about Tibet. So we'll talk about that a bit. Very different places. So, and the final thing we're going to look at, question 5, you sent to me, what are the concepts related to Buddhism? Some vocabulary like suffering. What does that mean? What the hell does that mean? When the Buddha is saying, "Oh, everything is suffering all the time."
In a
what the hell does that?
sense.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. And interrupt me anytime. Also, go ahead. You want a question there?
No, it's okay. I was just saying definition, concept, and vocabulary in a classical sense, and then we can elaborate on that. You're right.
Sure. Yeah. I'm also in the background here, making sure I'm streaming correctly to my own thing over here. But anyway, so that's part 1. So very quick, part 2, I haven't even done a lot of my preparation for that, or part 3, because I focused on this one so much. But next Friday, same time, part 2. And what? It says here, Buddhism in the West.
Buddhism in the West.
There's a lot to say
how it
on
started.
Yeah.
And you were telling me about some scandals. I know a little bit about Buddhism because I think I read a lot too, but not as much as you. The Western misunderstanding, the difference between mindsets, how we are perceiving Buddhism here and how Buddhism is maybe in reality. And the third episode that I think we will enjoy a lot, Future of Mankind. spirituality versus transhumanism. You've been working a lot on transhumanism since many months now, and you have interviewed a lot of people on that. So maybe we'll be able to compare future, the chronology of future, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. What's the definition of future?
Also, Buddhism has eschatology also.
Yes, you were showing me this before.
The guy who wrote, I had on the podcast, the guy who wrote this book, I had him on here. Ajahn Punadhamma, who's a Buddhist monk. Anybody scroll down through my previous stuff, click that. And we go into great detail the cosmology of Buddhism. So there's that. We're back for extra info on that. But I'm just very scratch of the surface when we get to that. But part 3, yes. That's very much what I'm looking forward to. This is just like nuts and bolts Buddhism 101 type day, with my own take, of course, because as we know, Buddhism is the most woke religion in the world, as far as the Western world is concerned. But that's part 2, the West, what's going on. How does somewhere like China have the most massive cultural revolution in human history during like the Tang dynasty? Correct me if I'm wrong. One of those, or the Tang or something, one of those dynasties. Buddhism arrived in that country, and it was the greatest cultural revolution in human history. And people study that in university, PhD level, crazy all the time. Massive history. Also coming along with this Buddhism thing that we're going to get into. Culture, history, psychology. Death, psychology, it's all there, right? So when with the Western smash, it's like they don't mix. And that's a spoiler for part 2. My opinion is going to be that Buddhism will never take root here, and a lot of people aren't going to like that. Buddhists, probably. Well, Western Buddhists.
We had many discussions preparing the series, and I think I was feeling it, but I could not name it. And now you're putting words on my intuition, which is quite interesting. If we go to the first slide, and after that,
we're gonna get to the first one here.
Like you said, sorry, I will go back. Like you said, the birthplace of Buddha.
Right.
Buddha was a prince confined to live behind a walled facility. His father, the king, did not want him to see misery, sickness, and death. Buddha went out with his attendant and saw a corpse, a sick man, an old man, and a holy man. The quest for enlightenment begins in earnest, leaving his wife, body, and kingship behind to live alone in the forest, studying with various ascetic, trying every practice. So you sent me this clip, and you wrote this small text. Can you comment and explain us the birth of Buddhism, if I can, or maybe the birth of Buddha?
Right. So I prepared a lot about this. I wanted to kind of wrap our heads around what it was like in 500 BC in India, right? Mm-hmm. The Brahmins were in charge, and I brought along some notes for myself here. So we'll get straight to that, I guess. Who are the Brahmins? And I'll just read this here, a couple sentences. Brahmins are a social class within the Hindu caste system, although I will say the Brahmins are pre-Hinduism. Hinduism comes out of Brahmanism, but they're still around, melded in with Hinduism. So the caste system, we know this. Traditionally regarded as the highest in the social hierarchy, they were seen as the priestly class, and back then, big time. I think that ancient India was a theocracy. Just a theory I'm working with. And
can
I
you
will explain. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you describe what you meant by theocracy?
Is that the right term for when the government is controlled by a religious view and power?
Theocracy.
Theocracy. Is that
okay?
right?
Sorry. Okay, it's because I didn't. No, you're right. Sorry. Okay, now I know.
Yeah, theocracy.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. So the Brahmins ran the show, and to continue reading my little note here, so they were the priestly class responsible for performing religious rituals, teaching sacred knowledge, and maintaining spiritual traditions. Historically, Brahmins served as priests, scholars, teachers in schools, I guess, and stuff, right? And they were considered to be the custodians of sacred knowledge. Oh, interesting. So they have the sacred knowledge only, right? So Brahmins were not only priests, but also played significant roles in the government, education, and intellectual pursuits. They were often involved in the administration of kingdoms and were considered to be spiritual advisors to the rulers and kings and tribal lords. So this is the world of where the Buddha was. So I thought that sounds very theocratic. So I was trying to imagine such a society. Kind of weird, whatever, it's fine. So what comparisons could we make to other historical periods or even current days? And we don't need to linger on that. This is just the way I wrote my notes. And we're just thinking here. We're trying to get to the how did Buddhism begin, right? So I'm just trying to lay that out, right? But there were a lot of rebellious spiritual movements at the time, right? The naked yogis and shit, right? People standing on their head all day and not eating food, and people starving themselves because the Hindu spiritual system, in one aspect, the old Hinduism, I don't know anything about it now, but the body, you need less of the body, more of the spirit, so you stop eating food and stuff. That's weird. So, an extremist. Yeah.
So you're talking about what, 500 BC? Around
500 BC. Yeah, so that's when the Buddha was born or whatever, right?
Okay, and then after that, he was from a noble family, an aristocrat at the time. Yeah. I'm sorry to use this term. So he was a noble person.
A prince. Yeah.
A prince. How come he got out? Do they have any idea what pushed him out to go and see the real world?
Yeah, he lived behind a wall until he was like, I don't know, 20 or something, 25, I don't know, into adulthood. The king built a wall around the facility and said, he's not allowed out, don't let him out. Because he didn't want him to see the real world or whatever, right? It's whatever. A lot of poverty, I guess, going on. Dead people, they just burn people out in the open. There's no burying in the ground in India, right? So I don't know. I think it was pretty weird also in the kingdom, maybe in the gutter. Everywhere was the gutter. That was the opinion you get from some of these things. So he said, I don't want him to see dead people or old people. That's another thing. Like nobody old. And no one's sick and all that stuff. So they built for the Buddha this little dystopian hell world, right? Or whatever, of pure pleasure, a heavenly realm, right? So I think a lot of people know that basic story. There's the famous book, of course, Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha. That was his name, Siddhartha Gautama, something like that. So
it is a novel from Hermann Hesse?
Hermann Hesse, yeah, he wrote a very short novel called Siddhartha.
I didn't know this. Basic story. I will take note because I like a lot Hermann Hesse. He's a very good writer.
Yeah, he did a great job. So anyway, I guess there was some sort of, he said, I'm going to sneak out, of course, right? And he gets an attendant to sneak him out. And of course, he sees corpses, sick people, poor things, old, sick, the dead. And he sees a holy man. That's the other thing. He's like, well, who's that guy? And the attendant's like, that's a holy man. He's like, he looks like I don't know, slob, whatever. And I'm no expert on like the story of the Buddha and stuff. I'm more like geopolitics. We're going to talk about samurai. We're going to talk about samurai eventually, kamikaze pilots and shit like that, right? Like Buddhism with Japan infected cultures in such different ways. It's crazy. Actually, it's crazy. But anyway, so the Buddha snuck out all these things, and that just changed his whole worldview with the suffering, right? What's with the suffering? So he's like, okay, I'm going to get old and I'm going to die. I'm going to get sick and I'm going to die, right? So there you go. I guess that's sort of like a thing. People deal with that, don't they? People deal with that. That's the hard truth, right? So there's a bit, that's how it started, right? He left, of course, and went to go, whatever. I sent you a photo. Do you get that photo of the emaciated Buddha statue?
Exactly. Let's take a look at that here. I was just waiting because I love this picture. Maybe you read the small text that you sent me.
Yeah, I got to make sure I'm not streaming correctly on my Rumble channel right now. That's okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to end my own stream, and I'm just going to focus on this conversation and upload later this video to my channel. So that's
good.
So what do we got here on this? What are you showing us?
The emaciated Buddha. Do you see it?
Yeah, I see it. What is it? So, why don't you read a little bit of it and I'll rest my mouth.
Okay, no problem. The fasting Buddha, this is a very nice text. The fasting Buddha is a representation of Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha. During his period of extreme asceticism before his enlightenment, This depiction captures him in a state of severe physical deprivation, with a skeletal body, visible ribs, and sunken features, reflecting the 6 years he spent practicing intense austerities in search of enlightenment. The emaciated Buddha is a rare subject in Buddhist art, as most depictions focus on the Buddha after his enlightenment, showing him in a more serene and healthy state. And we all have the image of the Buddha, who is meditating. So could you explain this, because it's a very interesting sculpture.
People usually don't expect that one, do they?
They don't. I honestly, when you sent me that, I did not.
You're not familiar with this?
I was not familiar with. I had an idea of the work of Buddha, because when I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they were referring to it, but not in this sense, and not in art. This type of sculpture is quite, I would say, disturbing.
Yeah, he's not Mr. Love and Peace there, is he? He's starving himself to death. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
But
and
see,
there's
the book-
another.
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
There's
Yeah.
another slide. If I go to the next slide, the legend where
Yeah,
we see this, you send me this image. The story of the emaciated Buddha receiving milk from a girl is a significant event in the life of Siddhartha Gautama, who later became the Buddha. After years of extreme ascetic practice, Siddhartha was near death, and it was during this time that Sujata, a farmer's wife, offered him a bowl of milk rice pudding, which restored his strength and allowed him to continue his quest for enlightenment. Maybe later, when we will talk about practice, you can describe. We were talking about this backstage. The food, the symbolism of the food in Buddhism. So go ahead.
Put up the emaciated one there.
Yes.
Slide.
Okay.
Well, the story it goes, the Buddha took everything to the next level, right? He's like, you're starving yourself. I'll go all the way. He wanted to get enlightened, and at that time, maybe later we'll talk philosophy. We'll try to focus on history, right? A little bit.
Yes.
But the Enlightenment is just like whatever. I don't know. I don't know what it is, right? But he wanted that. But in India back then, that meant no longer reincarnating, right? These people believe in this part of the world, in India at this time. Everybody believed it. All the religions, regardless of how rebellious or nouveau the type of religions were that were going on at the time, besides Brahmanism, they were. I'm losing my train of thought. It's not reincarnating. That's enlightenment, basically, in a nutshell, right? Getting off this wheel of being born and dying and born and dying and born and dying forever. That's how serious they're about this. And it's been happening since what they call beginningless time. So, and cosmology, that's the first hint of the cosmology, I guess. The universe has always been there, and it's not the only one. And it always will be there. There's no Big Bang. That's an interesting element as well.
I think that's interesting what you're referring to. Enlightenment, the end of reincarnation, meaning an end to life as we know it. And you say cosmology, the beginning of time. We were talking about eschatology, the end of time. How does the Buddha? He was trying extreme experience to achieve enlightenment. I think you told me in a conversation we had, you said some people were asking Buddha, were asking Buddha to teach them his experience, and he was saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, he was saying, you will not understand. I honestly, you see this piece of art, this culture. And when you see this, you cannot understand the extreme experience that he went through. It is something that defines Buddhism, that extreme experience. Is it something that would help people understand what could be Buddhist, the Buddhist practice?
Yeah, there's a connection here, of course, right? Just like in other religious books, the stories, the myths, that there's teachings encoded. Right.
The myth, this is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll go from the emaciated Buddha up to his enlightenment real quick. So yeah, he took it too far, and so I guess next slide of the girl, and I chose to bring that along 'cause to me I like that. That's very sweet. When I heard, I was like, that's a very sweet thing. This she's like,
It
you're
is.
hungry.
It
You're
is.
hungry, sir. Have some food.
It
And
is. It
he was like,
is.
you know what? You know what? I think I will. I'm a little hungry here. And he's like, I'm gonna have to. This isn't the right thing here. What I'm doing. Then this, of course, people might know this term, the middle way, right? That's a very famous Buddhist teaching and concept word, and this is where he realized it. If you tune a guitar, and this is a very famous thing about the guitar, you have to tune a guitar not too far, not too little, right perfect in the middle. To get
In the
that.
middle way.
The middle.
You're a musician. You play.
Yes, I'm a musician. Yes.
So you explain this middle way, because we see Buddha in an extreme experience, and suddenly he realized that he has to go in the middle way. You know, how do you described it with the guitar? Can we use this metaphor in a day-to-day life?
Oh yeah, of course. Driving a car. Don't freak out.
Especially today, that's a good example.
Yeah,
That's
I'm bad behind.
because
I'm usually pretty good, but I get pretty hostile behind the wheel. It's bad.
I was in Montreal for 15 years. I was born in Montreal, but I was in Montreal for 15 years. And after the first year, I had problem because I was having parking ticket all the time. So I sold my car, and I didn't have a car for 15 years in Montreal. And when I bought a car back in 2008, I was afraid, because I was seeing how people had changed through times. And I was like you, maybe becoming more aggressive behind the wheel. And now, 17 years after, because now I live in the country, I see that it did not come back. Sometimes I'm impatient, but I think I matured a little bit, but I do. So that's the middle way. You're referring to something that is try to control your emotion. Isn't it counter intuitive, trying to control your emotion? The people, they think that Buddhism is something that you have to abandon yourself to your emotion, your feeling. It seems like it is the wrong interpretation.
Sum up your question for me succinctly. I basically know what you want me to say or to what to answer, but ask me very directly the question. We're talking deep. It's deep shit here. We're deep in the weeds already, my friend. And I knew it was going to happen, but it's fun. Ask away.
So, but because you were talking about the origin of Buddhism, so we know now a little bit about the history of Buddha, how he tried to, I would say, starve himself to try to an extreme experiment. What did he do after? How did he pursue his quest for enlightenment?
Yeah, okay, I get you now. So you mentioned earlier that he told his first disciples, "You're not going to even understand what I have to say." So from here, he takes the food and he realizes, "Oh, that was very kind of you." And he thought, "Well, maybe there's something with the kindness here." And of course, everyone knows this cliche about the compassionate, loving Buddhist, plural, and the Buddha, Mr. Love and Light, and all this bullshit. That's not true. That's a Western phenomenon. I'm sorry. That's the fun we're going to have today, is demystifying Buddhism, just for fun, just very basic, nothing fancy here. And so anyway, the emaciated Buddha, whatever, he starts to eat food, and he's like, "Well, okay, I'm feeling a hell of a lot better now. I'm feeling a hell of a lot better from this rice pudding with milk." So it goes off, and he's like, "I'm just going to sit under this tree, right? The Bodhi tree." And I did bring some photos, and we'll get into our slides very soon when we get to Theravada, which I think is here. I got to keep on the time.
If you feel you want to bring some definition on stage, just go ahead. I think you have some already.
I got a ton of slides, and this is such an undertaking. This is a 3-part series, right? And
so we have a lot of time, David.
Yeah, we have a lot of
time.
All
the time we have.
I know, but it's a fascinating world to dip into. Historically, whatever, spiritually, there's lots to think about.
Yes.
In life, in today's world, I think Buddhism has many things to offer in the way of, like, I don't know, calm down, relax, first of all, then think, instead of just think and go crazy. which is more of a Western thing. And that's part 2. But anyway, the Buddha goes, he's like, that's it, I'm done. I'm going to sit under this tree and I'm not getting up until it happens. And it just happened, whatever. I don't know how long he sat there, a long time. And so that's that, right? He gets enlightened. I don't know what that is. And he runs into his 5 friends who he used to starve himself with and whip themselves and lay around naked on hot rocks all day or whatever they do, right? The extreme ascetic Indians of the ancient world, right? And they're like, you're looking pretty damn good there. You've been eating food. We can see that. And also, why are you radiating such a happy attitude right now? People are like that, aren't they? Well, why are you smiling today, right? I had someone say that to me once. I was like, I don't know, I'm fucking happy. So it's like, they said, well, what? He says, I'm enlightened, okay? And they're like, whoa, what? Excuse me? I can actually see maybe there's something going on with you. Tell me, teach me. What is it? What master have you studied with? Because that's the other thing. He was traveling around to all the meditation masters. He didn't just starve himself. This is a whole deal. 7 years or 10 years or something, right? Of various practices, not just starvation. Crazy yoga, probably, right? Anyway, so his very first teaching ever, and I just love this. This is interesting. This is actually what got me interested in Buddhism in a university class one day. We were learning about it. And the Buddhist first teaching, the teacher says, you're not even going to understand, so I'm not going to waste my time. And they're like, okay, weird.
It's quite direct.
Like, how could you explain enlightenment, right? So that's interesting. So a little, and my wife, who knows a lot more about this than I do, she said a little, according to the Theravada tradition, and we're about to get to our first slide. I'll rest my mouth a little here. But a little spirit came down from heaven or whatever and said, look, Buddha, some people in the world have only a little bit of dust in their eye. And I told you that earlier, and you asked me what about that. That's an excellent fucking thing that I really love. The little angel says, there are some people you could teach. Some people will understand because they only have a little bit of dust in their eye. Everyone else is blind. I like that. Isn't that interesting? And he said, okay, fine. So he starts teaching these 5 ascetics in a place called Deer Park. And in a lot of Buddhist imagery, especially in Tibet, there's 2 deer and they're kind of looking at each other up like this. And there's a big spoke wheel in the middle at the top of monasteries. That's to symbolize that Deer Park in the first teaching. And the wheel symbolizes the first spinning of think of it like a roulette wheel. That first teaching, the Buddhist world, they discuss this as the spinning of the wheel of the Dharma. And now it's still spinning. And in terms of eschatology and cosmology in the future, perhaps part 3 of this, that wheel is going to stop.
It will stop for everybody?
The teachings of Buddhism will leave this world.
Okay. Because
they will
you
disappear.
mentioned,
yeah.
you were using the term Dharma, which is what it is.
Teachings.
The teaching. Yeah. So he decided to at least to teach to some people around, some disciple, and they were ready to learn, to remove the dust in their eyes, and then after that, how long did this practice last? Years.
Well, it turned into a huge deal, a huge following, right? And the caste system, he said, no more of this bullshit. Men, women, who care? Whatever. I don't care about your class or nothing like that. Just sit down on your ass and meditate, calm down, and then maybe we can get somewhere together. And we got to talk about this because this theme is going to bleed through the whole series, I think, or at least this one. The Brahmins were big on animal sacrifice. I'm not really referring to my notes because I just know the shit in my head. But animal sacrifice was massive, right? In the ancient world, Rome, everybody, right?
Yes, everywhere.
And he was like, no more of that either. So interesting, rebellious spirit going on here, and I love that. That something rebellious there, maybe, and not killing animals for no reason seems like a good idea too. Very logical. So far so good, I guess. I don't know. Right. So we were talking also about food. We will talk a little bit about practice later.
when you refer to animal sacrifice, it was a common practice everywhere around the globe, at least in many civilizations, the Greek civilization, the Inca civilization in South America. Did that have an effect on the practice or the definition of Buddhism? Because we were talking about the origin, a little bit about the history. Do we consider Buddhism a practice, a religion?
Right.
Do we see it from the origin? How could you define for Western people who are not aware of what is happening? How can we define it? Is it only a practice? Well, you were talking about cosmology. I think it's important. Origin, the end, enlightenment. There's a lot of vocabulary that that many people are. They seems familiar with this vocabulary, but what are the real definition? What is, for example,
karma?
Karma, exactly. What's the
That's
difference?
a huge one. People do not understand what they're talking about with karma, at least as far as the ancient Indian world goes. We also have our own ego, the Sigmund Freud concept here. Over there,
yes,
but that's not to cut you off, but there's massive rabbit holes with words, definitions, and cultures colliding. That it's very difficult.
It's difficult. Yes, it is.
We should get to the first slide because this is a perfect segue, because the Western world is the last place to adopt Buddhism.
So is it the one that you sent me? This one here?
Yes. Yeah. So I should be able to.
You have full control.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So Theravada. This is the beginning, right? A lot of people might know about these guys. They wear the brown robes. They carry a begging bowl, right? Let me just read this. So we're going to start our journey in history now, right? These guys believe that they are practicing the real words of the actual Buddha. This is the first type of Buddhism, which was only for monks, not for regular people. Regular people would support the monks. So and this is going to change from country to country. So Theravada Buddhism focused on preserving the Buddhist teachings found in the Pali Canon. And there's so many sidetracks here, but I have the Pali Canon sitting beside me. It's a massive stack of books. Is the longest surviving school of Buddhism, right? It is the dominant in Southeast Asia and has been influential in the West, particularly through insight tradition. Yes, right. What else could we say about this? The Theravada adheres to the path of the Buddha as laid out in the 3 baskets of the Pali Canon. This is important. The body of Buddhist teachings is the Pali Canon, right? And it's in 3 massive sections. So you could compare this to the Bible. It's one book, but there's a lot of smaller books within it. Here we're talking 3 big books, right? But with hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny associated books. And I like to think of it that way, because Buddhism's it's not easy to understand, right? So the first big chunk is the sutras, which are the actual lectures or discourses of the Buddha to the monks.
I have a question. Can you compare this to, we were talking about Socrates, who did not write his thoughts, but they were brought to us by his disciple. Can you compare the principle and this teaching? Was it the same way? Was it he was not a writer?
Right.
Somebody wrote his teaching?
Great question. The Buddha said this is an oral tradition. Do not write any of this down.
That's why I refer to this. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's important, and we may have glossed that over if you didn't ask that. I love this too. It was 500 years before they started writing this shit down into books.
Yes,
because he said, don't do it, because this is apprenticeship, and I love that aspect of Buddhism. You're going to work with me, and here when the scandals come up, trust me, the guru system in Tibet, yes, there's problems there, and we'll get to that. But master-student relationship is something goddamn beautiful, period. It's a great thing. Okay. So that's interesting to me.
I have a small, maybe a small comment about this. we see it often. The master is having an apprentice, and the apprentice is saying, first of all, the apprentice does not ask questions. The master is telling him what to do, and one day the master disappears, and the apprentice sees that the master disappeared because the master knows that the apprentice is ready. He just disappeared from his life. Can we compare this to what you're talking about? The master apprentice relationship, if I can use the expression.
Sorry, could you ask that question one more time? In the background, I was trying to get my next slide ready, and I basically heard you. But could you ask? Sorry, I'm sorry. Could you ask that again?
Just comparing what you just said about the practice from between the master and the apprentice. The master is teaching the apprentice to practice, and one day he just go away because he knows that his apprentice is ready.
Yeah,
it is the master who knows, not the apprentice.
Well, with the guru system in particular, and I guess with some of this stuff, the student knows, and the teacher knows also when that thing happens.
So they both know. Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny, there's a great story. We could sidetrack briefly. I got to tell this story. In Tibet, there's a master student story, and the student is like, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready for the final teaching. Right? Give me that one last secret teaching, because in Tibet they have a secret lineage called the Vajrayana. And oh yes, we're going to get into that. Very interesting. But long story short, the guy, he says, "You're not ready yet," and he stays with him a long time. And here's what happens: one day he realizes, okay, the student, he's finally, I think, ready for the final initiation, and he smacks him in the face with his shoe. and it just snaps his mind.
A nice way to act, yes.
Yeah, and anyway, when we get to Japan and Zen and stuff, they also smack each other around a lot as a part of the Buddhist practice. So I don't know. You tell me how non-violence fits there.
Well,
so very non-logical. There's a non-logical nature to Zen.
This is maybe that's interesting what you're saying. Mm-hmm. We always refer this to violence or non-violence, but you're talking about logic and non-logic. You can go on with your definition. What you wanted to show about, I would say, the origin and the history.
Yeah, let's get through to this here. We'll talk about their diet. So this is a better picture. I think people will understand that this is more how they look. These Theravada monks in the Southeast Asia, Sri Lanka also, and running around at the bus stop once in a while in Vancouver, right? They eat food once per day. I've been on a 1-week retreat at a monastery in British Columbia ran by these guys. I did not enjoy it. 11 o'clock once per day, you eat whatever is offered by the community. Doesn't matter what it is. They walk into town from their monastery once per day. They stand there with these giant bowls. They just hold them. And people come up, put things in, and they ask for teachings. And sometimes maybe give them money. I don't know, whatever. And then they walk home and then they eat it. That's it. They don't ask, what is in this? Is it meat? Is it not meat? Actually, you know what? I think that these monks do not eat meat. They're not allowed. Aha, yes. Okay. So I think that's a wrap up on Theravada. I wanted to go over to Zen. But is there anything you want to say about those guys, those monks, the Theravada? Those guys say that we are studying real Buddhism. Zen and all the other Mahayana schools, right? Mahayana schools are hybrids of Buddhism, offshoots. When you take a religion like Buddhism to Japan, things go crazy. They were Shinto before that. So these things mix and merge. And when it went to Tibet, it is a hybrid with Native American shamanism, basically, the Bon religion of Tibet. There were shamanistic warriors, right?
You're talking about hybridization.
Yes.
Let's say you say when the religion or the practice or the doctrine arrived in Japan, it merged and it became something else, not extreme. You talk about Shinto. That was what not the religion, but the practice in Japan. You say that it arrives in a country and it is interpreted in a different way than the origin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Buddhism radically changes cultures. Radically changes them.
Okay. Now I understand. Okay, something arrives and people start to change.
Everybody goes for it because the emperor says so. You do it.
Okay. That was my question. How come people are following this practice? It's because they were ordered to.
For the most part, at that time in Japan, when Buddhism arrived, we know a lot about the samurai and the what were they called? There's hundreds of small states, provinces, groups, right? What's the term? I forget the shogun. The shogun.
Okay, the shogun. Okay, yes, you're right. They were small communities or small cities or small
little mini city states, right? And they were always at war, right? They were poisoning each other's. That looks very Tibetan, actually. They were always, poisoned. The court intrigue of ancient Japan is intense. I took a whole course in university, 1 year, full course semester in Japan's complete history. And Buddhism was heavily featured in there eventually. Super interesting. And here, of course, the Shaolin monks, right? They get into Zen training. With
so
their mind.
if we refer to Japan, which is not a big country, a big territory, you say it was cities. I forgot the nation city, like ancient Greek, like Rome and Athena.
Like tribal wars, almost. Tribal.
Yes. Sorry. Thank you for the expression. They were at war with each other all the time. So you say that the practice of Buddhism was imposed on all those cities?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't know how authoritarian everything was, and there could have been some already little sinews of connection between Shintoism and Buddhism to begin with, like Taoism and Confucianism in China mixed with Buddhism, like a hand in a glove almost, right? But you take Buddhism to New York City, you're going to have problems, or to Nova Scotia, Canada.
Sorry, what you're showing here, it is what the Oroboro, is it? Nope. This? No, it is not. Mm-mm. It is. Can you explain the symbols of? Because we're talking about vocabulary, but we saw the sculpture of emaciated Buddha. There's a lot of representation in Buddhism. Can you explain and describe those type of representation? You were referring to some of the vocabulary, samsara, karma. Is it possible? How do we recognize the symbol of Buddhism except from the image of Buddha?
Yeah, that's huge. There's a lot in my notes.
Just some example.
You want to know the essence of Buddhism, succinctly put?
Well, yes.
It's very difficult. I find that hard because all of the philosophical terms that we're going to get into, such as karma, samsara, nirvana, enlightenment, suffering, rebirth, not reincarnation. Reincarnation is not the Buddhist thing. Rebirth is different. All of these things need a little bit of a tease out that paint a picture, a holistic picture of a way of being. And I guess that tells me it's not a religion, although in some countries it is very religious. They bow to the statue, they offer alms to the church, they go home and they live their life. They don't sit around, meditate, shave their head, and go deep into this stuff. They don't. So it's funny. It is a religion, but it is also not. Right? It's tricky. I wanted to. I'm sure. Let's talk about this briefly because this is going to,
go ahead.
In some ways, encapsulate your question. Also, I really wanted to. I was thinking about this Zen circle. To the listener, I got the Zen circle on the screen, and people see this everywhere. Sushi restaurants. This is a somewhat famous thing. You see this around. And I was thinking about this. What does this mean? This is the quintessential Zen art. And And I thought about calligraphy. Calligraphy. You get this big
Yes.
old brush, you dip it in a ton of ink, and you can see at the bottom of the circle where it touches there, it makes a dot in space. Absolute white space. It makes a one black dot. Bam. And I don't know a lot about calligraphy, but there's a whole deal with that too. And the Japanese take Buddhism to a completely artistic, crazy place, right? Everything they do is infested with this concept of slow, steady precision. And so then the brush begins to move. And the trick here is to not touch the paper too much, because the ink will smudge and not look good, right? Or whatever. And also you need to preserve a ton of this ink on the brush to complete the damn thing.
To complete it,
can't,
yes.
Yeah, you can't press too hard. Oh, this is the middle way, Andre, you see? And here he goes. He's going around ever so gently, just applying just the perfect type of pressure to finally end. And there's another thing going on with how the circle is completed, that they don't actually complete it intentionally. They release, so they're holding the middle way, very concentrating with every essence of their entire mind and being on this damn thing. And they don't even, that they allow it to disappear, like
to finish it.
To let go of a balloon type of concept, to just stop, just
You mentioned
nothing. Yeah,
you mentioned something toward this, and we were talking about food. The Japanese, they do not finish their plate. What you mentioned with this circle is the master of being there to complete the circle, to make sure that the pressure is strong enough to have a perfect circle, but not too strong, because at the end you will not have enough ink. So it's practically a meditation experience.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that would be a way for Japan to, I would not say reinterpret, but to use Buddhism as a practice, because this is a piece of art. It's a drawing. You were mentioning calligraphy. I think I saw many Japanese people practicing calligraphy. They are amazing. How they can master a brush, and how they can do it. That's extraordinary. How they can. This is a great masterpiece. You have to be able to master your hand. First of all, you use the brush. You have to be able to master to have enough. This is incredible.
Yeah.
So that would be the influence of Buddhism on Japanese art.
I guess so. I mean, it's such a deep rabbit hole. No one could study it all forever, and I've just scratched the surface myself. You know, I can't present much more than, I mean, I'm looking at Wikipedia really, and just going from a little bit of reading and from school, and in my own time reading some stuff about Zen here and there through the years. I mean, it interests me. I've hung out in Buddhist circles and even with some of these Zen people through my life.
Through the history of Buddhism, maybe with your practice, you are a musician. Did you ever play with this in your mind, this type of mastering an instrument, a music instrument, for example?
I think everybody has some kind of thing going on with that anyway. Like, there's the thing is like that Zen thing they're talking about. I think people get it already in their life without calligraphy, without meditating. Just a little sniff in the air once in a while of true freedom in their mind, right?
Freedom, yes, exactly. We were talking about concepts. You were referring to the karma, samsara. I know some words, but are we facing? You can go ahead with your picture presentation. Where do we stand in terms of concept?
Where do we stand in terms of concept? Buddhism is a way of life, really. Oh, sorry, I muted myself.
It's okay.
I just said Buddhism is I don't know, man. Like it can be a way of life. It can be a basic something, nothing, or intense religion to you, depending on who you are, really, right?
But okay. So you say that, for example, there's no right way or wrong way, but the way of life, you take what suits you in Buddhism and you adapt it, or because it seems that you were talking about master and apprentice. The master is teaching a practice. The apprentice is practicing and practicing and practicing, and after a certain time, he's starting to. It's like sculpture, they're sculpting, and not suddenly, it takes years for them to master an instrument, a tool, and suddenly they can do some great piece of art because they master it. It took long time. In the West, we are not very patient, and we want it now, and we don't want to suffer. What would be, for example, you were talking about Tibetan Buddhism. What is the structure of the I will use the word doctrine. I will not use the word religion.
It's important to probably bring a meditation here. Sit down, meditate type meditation.
Yes.
Because that's a big part of it, isn't it? That's a huge part of this.
Well, there's a lot of people who think that meditation is just closing your eyes and relaxing and singing a mantra. It is something that is it more deep? Is it more philosophical?
There's a lot one could say. There's hundreds of thousands of practices of meditation, probably. It's been around forever. And for the Westerners, in some cases, not all, think that it's some sort of gimmick that was invented last week, this sit down and meditate stuff. It's actually I think it's serious, although it doesn't have to be. To me, it's serious. When I do it, I'm not playing around. And I don't do it often. I used to a lot. So I can kind of speak on it a little, but I don't know. You can try to achieve bliss in your life, but you will fail. That's a Buddhist attitude and perspective. Meditation is to deal with your future life, and then this one.
Okay,
probably.
Maybe you can continue with you were talking about the school of thoughts, how Buddhism was used, or for example, in Japan. What about other countries? You were talking about maybe China, but depending on.
We're going to skip China.
Okay.
Because they're going to get honorable mention here by the destruction of Tibet.
Yes, that's maybe one thing that we will talk a little bit later. Yes, you're right. Artifact, temple. Were there any temples? Were there any places of where you can, I will not say worship a god, but practice? And
there's
yes,
the Dalai Lama with Barack Obama and the Dalai Lama. Look at this photo.
Maybe, we can talk about the school of concept, or if you want to talk about the Dalai Lama, because we are supposed to see what is this influence. Who is the Dalai Lama?
Yeah, that was one of the questions we were going to get into. So we could do an honorable mention to Tibetan Buddhism, I guess, because things went really crazy. Look at this photo. Things went crazy when Buddhism went there. It was nuts. Like, they were a warrior tribe, very into animistic religions and sacrifices, and like really like wild people of the mountains in some sense, right? It was a kingdom, whatever, and they owned a lot of where's that place? Kashmir,
yes.
Areas of China all the way to Sichuan. They were invading, doing things. So when Chairman Mao and the communists came there, finally, with technology and military power and communism, they thought, now we will deal with them once and for all. It's been 1,000 years dealing with these fucking Tibetans. Now we will crush them. And they did. They destroyed 6,000 monasteries. They destroyed them.
So they destroyed a lot of monastery. They destroyed a lot of place where you could practice. They were destroying what, can we call this the culture of Buddhism?
Oh, yeah. It was a cultural genocide, right? That's what happened.
Because we see how to eradicate people. You start by destroying the culture, the roots, the memory. Maybe not the origin, but the memory. Who were the ancestors? I think sometimes we have this tendency of going very fast, and we are forgetting where we come from. Not necessarily in a cosmology perspective, but our parents, grandparents, and so what is the? You can maybe describe this type of practice. Is it meditation?
There's something to show in this photo. Do you see this trumpet lying here?
Yeah. Yes.
That is a human femur bone.
Okay. Now you
instrument.
say it. You say it, and they make a music instrument out of it.
Yes, and over here we have he's holding one of those drums in his hand. You know this from the Karate Kid movie. People have seen you move it, then map back and forth, and it hits these things.
Yes.
Down here is a ritual, smaller version, 2 of them, human skull tops, 2 of them put back to back and covered with maybe human skin. I'm not sure. Also drums that they play. Okay. So this is what happens in Tibet when things go crazy. They're building ritual Buddhist musical objects out of human dead bodies. There's something going on with death in Tibetan Buddhism. They're obsessed with it, not necessarily in a bad way. And I wouldn't say obsessed, but it just plays heavily. Things are really intense there. I find it fascinating, personally. Tibet, there's a lot. I mean, look at the artwork here now. Look at this temple. Compared to Japan, look at this.
What would be the differences?
Japan is like a black and white.
Nothing. Okay, and here it is more colorful.
Yeah.
Can we say more joyful?
I don't know, man. You walk in there and I've hung out in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery on Salt Spring Island. And we could talk about some antidotes later, maybe with some of the other photos I brought of Tibetan people who have come to the West. But I've never been in one like this. And there's one in here in Nova Scotia, Gampo Abbey. I've spent 2 weeks there once, living like a monk as a university project.
Well, how it was? Maybe you talk about your experience in monastery, how you were drawn into this, and what were your experience? Were you in a monastery for many days, weeks? What was your contact?
I didn't spend a lot of time there, but went for a couple of weeks here in Nova Scotia. Pema Chodron lives there, which is interesting. She's a heavy hitter in the Buddhist world, I guess. And I went to. There's other places that are not monasteries. They're called practice centers, which just basically are places to go for lay people to meditate. And I've went there as like staff, like cooking, kitchen, to volunteer sometimes. So I've hung out a little bit in the Buddhist world too. But yeah, I don't know.
You were talking backstage before we went live. You were talking about this anecdote or this short story about garlic.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's
cooking.
right. So with regard to, I'm showing the 16th Karma up on the screen here. Maybe we'll talk about him in a minute. But when he came to the West, what happened? Yeah. So the Theravada monks, we talked about their diet. They're not picky. They eat what it's given. They beg, right? Japan, I don't know. They kind of do a bit of the begging too, but they have a variety of things going on there. But in Tibet, this is interesting because, and one of the main teachings of Buddhism is don't take life. Right? If you're serious about not reincarnating ever again or whatever, right? You can't be killing things. This is the worst karma of all, right? Taking life. So it's funny that the Tibetans, they have no crops. They live in the mountains, really. They you know what they eat? Yak and barley. That's it. Yak butter, yak milk, and the meat, and they build tents out of the skin and everything, right?
So it would be what, a contradiction? Because if they eat yak, they're just maybe pragmatic. Maybe they just adapt to their environment. It's because we have to ask. If we ask ourselves, do I eat meat? Do I kill animal? If we don't eat nothing, we cannot last long. There's a word my wife is using a lot: prana.
Yeah.
And like energy. Is there a sense of energy in Buddhism? The fact that they, we saw the emaciated Buddha. You lose a lot of energy, you lose a lot of weight. You try to get out of this intellectual and mental activity. Is energy important? Is it a
Great.
word that
Yeah. Oh yeah.
do they use the word energy? Not in the modern way, not in like we know.
There's magic going on for sure. They believe it.
Okay, this is very interesting what you're saying, because the difference between energy, and you were talking about animism before, animism, energy, and magic. Magic
Yes.
would be something supernatural that you cannot explain. Energy would be a more physical phenomenon, and you have animism, which would be the spirit in objects.
Yes.
So do they use the three concept?
Oh yeah.
Maybe not energy in a modern way, like we know about physical energy.
Oh yeah. That part of the world has the acupuncture. China's right there. The Reiki stuff. Everyone's into the Reiki
Yes,
now. That comes out of Tibet. Like, trust me, these guys are crazy with this stuff.
But when you talk about Reiki, you talk about acupuncture. Those are practice. My wife, she took many sessions of acupuncture. I never tried, and I was, and honestly, it's not because I'm afraid. I have a good health, but she was saying to me, it is a strange therapy. She told me, she said, I don't know if it helps or not. And she practiced Reiki also. And she told me, she said, I don't know if it helps or not. So maybe my question would be, how do we know, not in the term of knowledge with our head, but how do we feel if it is something that helps us? You said Buddhism could be meditation could be a small practice. You don't have to meditate. When we observe nature, the beauty of nature, for example, and we just observe it, we don't try to take it. How can we feel if it is helping?
Great question, and perfect segue to a few of my photos. I don't know if you planned that, but that's perfect. So the karma.
No, I don't. Maybe I'm meditating with you.
Hey man, things happen. And synchronicity, people in the West love the synchronicity, and the Tibetans, they're all over this stuff. They call it auspiciousness. The Tibetans think everything is mysterious. Everything in the gosh darn world, everything that happens is great. I used to I hung out, or was an attendant for one of these Lama dudes on Salt Spring Island in British Columbia at a monastery for most of a summer. I just cooked for him and a couple other people who would come over there once in a while to meditate or whatever. It was a ramshackle shithole falling into nothing, actually, built in the 80s. Anyway, that Lama dude, he would say, oh, that flower is very auspicious. It's like a daisy blowing in the wind or something. Like, okay, dude, whatever. I don't know. So let's talk about the Karmapa coming to the West. Show this tab right here. This is way before anyone heard of the Dalai Lama. I mean, maybe he was beginning to get famous or whatever. This guy is more powerful than him as far as things go. This is the very first human being to ever intentionally reincarnate. Okay, this is the Tulku system, right?
Okay, I have one question. When we talk about Dalai Lama, it is a person, and it is through a reincarnation. Am I wrong? Am I right?
Let's go back to this tab right here.
Okay.
Tibetan Buddhism has 4 main schools, right? The Gelugpas, or the Gelug, that's the Dalai Lama. He's the head of one of these 4. Gelug.
Okay, so you have 4 schools.
Yeah, the Kagyu is the oldest and the longest running, and this is the Karmapa. He's the big boy. These 2 guys, Nyingma and Sakya, they're smaller. They're very small.
Okay, so it will situate us. Okay, go.
Yeah. And even I'll show that there's sub schools. So there's 4 major schools within the Kagyu. Then there's 8 smaller lineages running, and all the dates of when they began look 1143. So that's just a fun fact, right? Fun fact. The
That's
first
interesting.
Karmapa is right here. The Dusum Kempa. Look, there he is.
That's interesting. You're talking about lineage. So it is through family?
Oh, these guys are obsessed with lineage too, right? They believe that
Okay.
the lineage is a living thing in the universe that runs from teacher to student, all through time, from the Buddha himself, right? They think that I mentioned the spinning of the wheel.
Yes,
right?
you did earlier. Yes.
It's a living, breathing system of teachings inherited and infesting your whole mind and spirit, right? This is deep shit. The Asians, they think differently about religion than the Greeks, I can assure you.
Mm-hmm.
So, bit of a side shoot. So the first Karmapa, 1110, what's that, 1110. That's when he was around. And he said, you know what, guys, I'm going to reincarnate, tell you what, and I'm going to leave a note of the name of my parents and the valley in which to find me. This is the first incarnate. This is when this all started, okay? 11.
So what happened? What happened? He died?
Yes, he died.
And what happened after?
They went and found the parents in the valley, of course. And the Dalai Lama started at maybe 50, 60, no, 50, a couple hundred years later, probably. The first Dalai Lama. And now we have the 14th Dalai Lama, right? And I'll share this tab again here. This would be the 16th Karmapa.
Okay,
the Dalai Lama's 2 behind, right? So he's got the most. He's reincarnated 16 times. And in fact, he died in 1981 in Chicago, Illinois. Cancer.
So, and then we arrive with the Dalai Lama that we know now.
Yeah. Let's go back to this. Let's get to the Dalai Lama right after this brief thing about magic, the Tibetan Buddhism, animism, and the Native Americans in North America. The Karmapa came here in 1974, fulfilling a prophecy that is 800 years old to the Hopi Indians, and also the Tibetans have an 800-year-old prophecy. One of them says basically, when the iron bird flies, that's airplanes, the teachings of the Tibetans or whatever, or the men with red hats, something like that, will come to the land of the Hopi land, right? So interesting that the Tibetans had a very similar one, saying that someday, whatever, I'm paraphrasing, the teachings of the Tibet will go to the land of the red man. So the word red is even in both of these prophecies. So anyway, this is a historical photo here for people who find this stuff interesting, and I sure do. Because as soon as he got off the plane, it said, take me to the Native Americans. They understand what I'm talking about when I talk about reality, right? These are both animists, right? You get it? They believe that the world is alive. It's not some dead fucking thing for you to control, manage, and I don't know.
It changed your concept of our interpretation of what is dead.
I don't know, man. It's tricky. I'm a Westerner, and I'm trying to still understand this stuff myself.
So he arrived when it was used.
There's 70s? A massive 1974. There was a dry spell here. 1974 in Tucson, a grip of. There's a little. I'm looking at a little news story here. Anyway, we'll get off this. It doesn't matter. I'll just explain it.
Well, you were talking before when we were preparing. You were talking about how he made it rain.
Yeah, there's a massive drought. So he shows up and he says, "How are things going?" And in this photo, in this news clipping from Tucson, Arizona, from 1974, you see Chief Dan, whatever his name is.
Yes,
Chief
exactly.
Cute little guy here. And he says, "So hi, they're fulfilling this prophecy." And he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And actually, on this very website down here, the people who were there write a little something. Erica Belair, they were there. And I read Steve Roth's account he's the driver. He was driving the car of the Karmapa, Steve Roth. And I will explain what it says, I guess, and try to be brief, because I think this is just fascinating. He shows up. He's like, and nothing. It's not even this fancy thing. It's like he shows up in some dump, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh, pretty good." It's pretty hot here, pretty dry. And Chief Dan, or whatever his name is, he goes, it's been a really bad drought. It's October, we still haven't had rain. And he's like, "I'll see if I can do something about that." And later they do have a big ceremony, and there is video on YouTube where the Karmapa walks into a Hopi massive ceremony. You can't even see through the incense. It's insane because they do brace for it after he makes it rain. Okay. So the guy down in here, the driver says they leave here after like a 5-minute chat about the weather. See you later tonight at the party or whatever. Clear blue sky. The driver looks up. There's small white snowball clouds, little white balls all across the horizon. From horizon to horizon, all of a sudden, he's like, okay, that's weird. He looked, the Karmapa's over there chanting to himself in the passenger seat, fondling his little beads or whatever, right? Doing his magic. And I'm not saying I believe this. This is just whatever. If there's a news story, there's first-hand accounts, you tell me, I don't know. And I've heard other things besides this, I can assure you, from the Tibetans and weird stuff that they claim goes on around there. But yeah, he makes it rain. Anyway, so the driver concludes by saying, by the time we made it to the hotel, the sky was black as the ace of spades. Like fucking doomsday was coming. And the rain came down like you couldn't even believe the power of the rain. So there you go. That's a fun. I wanted to bring that up. There's a bit of fun. And also almost as a teaser, Buddhism comes to the West, right? This is when it first happened. The Dalai Lama didn't step foot in North America until after this, right? This is the first visit from the Tibet.
He did not after. He came back.
Well, he died 81. He died 81. So
that was, you say that was the 14th?
That's the 16th Karmapa.
The 16th. So after that, you had the Dalai Lama that we have now.
Oh yeah, no. Now we have the 17th Karmapa. Different guy.
17th. Okay.
We're going to see a video of him arriving in Canada for the first time.
Yes, of course.
I brought along a video just to demonstrate, just for the viewer, they might find this interesting. So that guy's dead. This is this guy. He has reincarnated in 1980. I don't know, 5. Okay, he's getting off the plane in Vancouver, BC, 2017. So let's have a look. Did this guy reincarnate or what? That's the story here. One moment, here he comes. I'll turn the music down. Stupid music playing. So, I don't know. There he is. That's the reincarnated guy who made it rain in Tucson, Arizona in 1974, if you choose to believe that. And there is a Karmapa scandal. There's a Karmapa scandal of epic proportions. You would not even believe it. But I don't know if I can open that can of worms today.
Well, we will talk about
part two.
Buddhism in the West, and I think we will touch some scandals that you will describe. So he arrived. That was when you said it, 2000.
Look at the SUV, black SUVs lined up, security guards, big strong guys. Cool, huh? I don't know, weird. 2017.
So it wasn't 2017. So
yeah. He's an adult.
It is. And did he do a speech in Canada? Did he explain a little bit, not the policies, but his views on maybe the modern world or our era?
I don't really listen to much of him speaking and stuff, but his English isn't great. But he does go on tours, right? World tours, just like the Dalai Lama was thinking about using him as his replacement and not reincarnating. So there's massive crazy things going on with this Tulku system, China, India, various political, massive.
Are they in competition?
Yeah, I don't want to confuse the issue too much. We could get off the Karmapa, but we're going to come back to him probably part 2.
Yes.
People are not going to believe some of the shit that goes on the Chinese border.
That's why I asked you the question, because we were talking about the school of thoughts. How many school of thoughts? You talked a little bit about Japan. So I think there's a way to come back to what we want to talk in the first episode. The concept, you talked about the concept. What about vocabulary? There's a lot of words that people use, and I think they don't know the meaning. I don't know the meaning of those words because maybe I never asked myself. I never searched for the definition.
Yeah, it's time to get into the definitions. I'm just showing one little video as we chat here, but that's the 16th Karmapa in His Majesty there. Pretty crazy.
It's very interesting what you're showing, because you were talking about the lineage. So they are part
This
of what
black,
I would call an
yeah,
aristocracy.
yeah. Can I tell you about this black hat?
Yes, go ahead.
This is the Black Crown ceremony, and the 17th Karmapa, his reincarnation, has not done this yet, and I'm curious about when he's ever going to do it. But the Emperor of China in the year 1100 came to see the third Karmapa, and just on a royal visit or discussion, right, whatever. And one of his shamans or whatever saw above the fifth Karmapa's head this black crown floating in space. And he said, "Sir," to the emperor of China, he's saying, "Sir, this guy's got a black crown floating above his head. He's somebody special." And he's like, "Yeah, I've reincarnated twice already, by the way." So they get into a discussion. And he says, "Yeah, I'm going to build you this hat." So the emperor of China built this hat for this guy 1,000 years ago. I don't know if it's a remake, if it's like been redone. It can't be the original, but fun story, right? Fun story.
Maybe because I went many times to Russia, and I was to Hermitage in St. Petersburg, and I can guarantee you that the artifact from some artifact from 2,000 years BC were there, and I was so shocked. So I think the lineage, they have this tendency of preserving those artifacts, like the tiara of the Tsar. It is the original. You are shocked. It was made in 16th century, in fur, with jewels and diamonds, and it is like you say, well, it goes through 500 years of history through time. Those are very strong symbols, so I would not be surprised it is the original. So what about vocabulary? What about we see all those beautiful costumes. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, the last part of, I guess, this part one. Just keeping track of the time here, I guess, right? Yeah, we talked about the history of some of the countries. That was fun, interesting. I find that stuff very interesting. Happy to report on it.
Can we? Me, I have a question. You see, I remember you sent me this, and it was a part of archaeology.
Yeah.
In 1907, excavation of Sarna, India, Deer Park, the Buddha wanders from isolation and meditation in the forest, fully enlightened. So there's a difference between the emaciated Buddha and what we see now.
Yeah, that's him dying, right?
Yeah, they become his first 4 disciples. You were talking about teaching a little bit earlier. When he was asked to teach them what he has learned, that's what you were saying. He is reported to have said, "You will not understand what I have to tell you." So however, a heavenly being came and told him that there are some people in the world who have a little bit of dust in their eyes and can understand. So that's a statue that was excavated in 1907. It's quite impressive. So it's another form of heart. What about heart in the origin of Buddhism? Were they creating statues? Were they creating temple, monasteries? You touched a little bit about monastery.
Mm.
Was it a practice, because you were referring to Japan?
Oh yeah, the Buddhist artwork is a big deal, encompassing music, everything, right? Massive headdress, dancing stuff, architecture. I said that. You
referred to music.
Everything.
Okay, you referred to music, and you referred also to native people. They have practice with music, drums. You showed us a femur and you showed us drums, cranes of people. It's quite, but it is interesting to see how the symbology of it, the symbology of all those artifacts, the statues, the representation, paintings, the color that they're using, the red, the green. They're very vivid color. You see, you have some era in the maybe in more recent age where they use less color. And for painters, it's always very important to use color that are joyful, if I can use the expression. So what about what we talked about the Dalai Lama, but what about this person here? The Dalai Lama is an emblematic figure of Buddhism. He represents many aspects of an ancient practice that is little understood in the West. Could you talk about him a little bit, and then
Sure.
maybe we can go back to the vocabulary?
Yeah, that's right. Kind of sidetracked from the explanation of who he is. I mean, I think a lot of people know it, right? He's always world tour. He's always on the news, being interviewed, whatever. People talk to him. He's trying to maintain the cultural heritage of Tibet, which it's a cultural genocide. So the Tibetan community lives in India, and he's their spiritual head. The Dalai Lamas, even though the Karmapas are the oldest guys, whatever, that's just the oldest school. The Dalai Lamas and the Gelugpa school are the government side of.
Can you say that the actual Dalai is in exile now? I think he's outside of Tibet.
Yeah.
Can you say that he's the head of the government? I would put government between quote.
I got his book here, Freedom in Exile.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's why I refer. Because he's trying to defend Tibet's culture.
He's preserving it if he can.
So he's not welcome in Tibet now. He's in exile.
No, if he went to Tibet, he would be kidnapped or killed. And I'm serious. I'm very serious. China, and I'm afraid to talk about China on a podcast. I just am. Because I think China have much more handle on things than we realize in the world. Maybe later we'll get into that maybe. So I'm literally nervous about talking about China and the Dalai Lama situation. I really am, because it's that serious and crazy.
But the actual Dalai Lama was born in Tibet. He was raised.
Yes.
Did he teach Buddhism, and how did he do it? Does he have a school? Does he write?
Well, I showed a picture of the Potala Palace in Tibet. I showed a picture of that in the capital city of Lhasa. That's where he lived. And that's a massive, huge monastery and government building, massive building. So that's where he lived, and head of government, right? Not necessarily spiritual head of his own school, the Gelugpa school. The Karmapa and the Kagyu boys, important. They don't listen to him. They don't listen to him when he talks. But there's other schools. So
could we say that Buddhism as a movement is split now? Is it? You have many schools of thoughts.
No, they're very intact. The Theravada Buddhism, the first people we looked at, they're very tight. They're not changing a thing. And in fact, I will say this from my own opinion only. The Theravada school think the other schools of Buddhism are not genuine.
Heretics?
A little bit.
Yes.
Heretical, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they adhere to other teachers that are not the Buddha, the guru, right? Sometimes the guru becomes the special teacher in their life, but it's weird, and it's a bit of a rabbit hole. But really, in my opinion, all Buddhist schools study these basic concepts like the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. And this could be a segue into our brief look at some of the basic concepts of the philosophy.
Yes, the characteristic, we talked a little bit about it, but characteristic and doctrine, what you were referring to. If you want, you can talk about the different, I would say, concepts.
Yep. I'm going to look at my notes for this one.
Yes, go ahead.
So, I brought in this word karma, of course. I don't know, very briefly. I think people kind of understand it, but I don't know. It's basically very simple also, but whatever you do physically, whatever you do mentally, and whatever you do with your mouth, like speaking, vocalizing, it reverberates through space and time, and it's going to affect your future outcome. That's kind of a very serious look at karma, right? A serious take. from the ancient world of India. That's how they're very serious. It's not like, I don't know, people talk about karma in more lighty, flighty sort of ways, or misinterpret it as it's a fundamental structure of the universe, right? According to Buddhism. So I don't know. So samsara and nirvana, the cycle of birth and death all the time, also very intense situation related to karma, right? So the sandwiching system, that's why I said earlier, like it's hard to encapsulate Buddhism. It just is. You got to look at all of the holistic elements and then somehow walk away with some kind of understanding, because the Westerners and me personally, I mean, I don't know, it's hard for me to understand.
If we take an example of what you said, everything we do, everything we say, every action have consequences in our life and our future. So that would refer to what you were talking about earlier. The middle way would be to do
careful.
as less pain as possible, to be practically anonymous in a way that you live in harmony. It is difficult in the Western world because we have this tendency of acting. We say we have to act, and we don't care about the consequences as long as we win. But what you're referring to is everything. My wife she's always referring to breathing, inhaling and exhaling, and
Breathing.
how I practiced a little bit of meditation many years ago, and I was shocked to know that to feel that when you start to meditate, you can lower your breathing rhythm, and you can. I cannot be a Buddha. I cannot stop it, but you can slow down your heartbeat. You can start to feel things more. Maybe that's what you're referring to. You were talking about samsara, which is the rebirth process. Rebirth. Can you make a difference between what you call rebirth and reincarnation?
Good question. Yeah, that's a good one. And I asked that monk, I asked him that too. And so he gave a straight answer. He was like, well, there's no first cause in that cosmology. First cause, that would be the Big Bang, came out of nowhere.
The Big Bang, yes, exactly.
God said it and it happened, whatever. And because there's no soul, this is the thing. This is going to ruffle some feathers. But there's no such thing as a soul. There's nothing that travels from your body or from your mind when you are dead, according to the Buddha. Okay, fine. There's nothing that goes through space and then goes into another being, right?
Dimension. Yeah, okay, I understand.
So, and this is very tricky here. This is very deep and strange. It's more of like students are always asking teachers of Buddhism this question: what does reincarnate then? Right, and that's the $1 million question, which people struggle to come up with an answer for, and even me right now. Although I'll just give an antidote: Chogyam Trungpa, who we're going to talk about a lot about next time.
Yes, we will talk about him later. Yes,
I'll show you a photo of him. He said, and I'll try to quote this directly: "Your bad habits are what reincarnate."
That's it. That's very important. That's very important.
So I don't know. Something to think about, I guess. Ponder some. I'm going to show I got to show you this photograph. I'm going to share screen.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to throw up this photo. Right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, not that one. The 3 marks of existence. Let's talk about that briefly. This is a major Buddhist teaching also. How are you for time, by the way? How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm perfect. 1 hour and 30 minutes and running. So let's go.
Has it been an hour, 30 minutes already?
Already. Going well.
The 3 marks of existence. And I have this in picture form. Share this tab. This is, people might be familiar with this. This is the Buddhist wheel of life and death, overseen by the...
Was that what you were calling the Dharma?
Sure. This is the wheel of this is the wheel of all of these teachings combined in art, held by the Yama, the Lord of Death.
Okay.
His eyes are this way because he's absolutely serious with you.
Mm-hmm.
He's not fucking around with you, and you're coming. When you're dead, you're going. You're dead. Death is serious. So that's an important aspect of Buddhism. They take death seriously. You're going to die. Deal with it. Figure that out. And don't ignore it, for goodness sake. So in the center of the wheel, I thought I would just pull out just this. The snake representing, well, we'll get to this in a minute. And you got the cock there, the rooster.
Yes.
And the pig. The pig of ignorance. Rooster is aggression. And the snake, let me refer to this other thing. I got it all written. AI is going to help us. I like that. The three marks of existence, also known as the three universal characteristics, are fundamental Buddhist concepts. So this could get closer to the core of the nut of the issue, maybe for everybody trying to figure out what's going on with this damn religion. Buddhist concepts that describe the nature of all phenomena and existence. These three marks are one, impermanence, right? The Buddha taught that all things disintegrate and are impermanent. That is because all compounded phenomenon are made of parts and inevitably fall apart. Everything changes. And this may seem obvious, but much of the time we relate to things as if their existence were permanent.
We're permanent, yes.
So anybody could easily just reflect on that and think, well, there's a bit of truth in here, God darn it. So number two, suffering or dissatisfaction. So this gets to the nut of that issue. What is the deal with Buddhists and all this fucking suffering talk? You know, no one likes it. No one likes it. They think the Buddha is Mr. Happy Time. No, he's not. Every experience is marked by a quality of suffering and dissatisfaction. So that sentence is enough for me. Every experience, whether you're having an ice cream or sex, whatever, it's actually painful in some aspect. Now, this is a very, very Buddhist thing. Very Buddhist thing.
You know, it is very interesting what you're talking. Dissatisfaction, ice cream or sexual. No, I'm serious. Sexual relationship.
Yeah.
It reminds me the concept of obsolescence. The fact that you buy something, and in the object there's this emptiness or this end. Anything you buy, anything you do, as soon as you have satisfaction, there's a dissatisfaction, because it's like you have the object, but the object does not bring you enlightenment. So you will feel the dissatisfaction after the satisfaction. I think what you're mentioning, and I like the representation of the rooster, the pig, and the snake, because it shows, but it shows the movement, like you were.
Yes, it's a living system. They all work together into one.
They work together. If you go more in your definition, if you bring back your definition, you were talking about impermanence. The other one is no self. So we are familiar in the Western world with what is the self, or the ego. So if we read, neither we nor anything else in reality as a solid, separate, and independent self. So how do we define our conversation? David, Andre are talking to each other, discussing with each other. If we don't have a self, who is talking? Who is discussing? Because I studied literature, and we always ask ourselves when we read a novel, who's speaking, so we can know where we are in the novel. So if I follow this definition, if I continue, the Buddha taught that there is no unchanging, permanently existing. That is okay, self that inhabits our body. In other words, we do not have a fixed absolute identity. On that, I agree. Our identity is moving. All the time.
And it makes you suffer because things are impermanent. You see how they all play together?
Yes, I think that's very important.
We're always trying to prove that we do exist. That's why we are here at all, born. We're trying to prove 6,000 times in the blink of an eye per second. That's how much the ego is working behind the scenes. A teacher told me that to my face once. He was a Westerner, nobody in a robe. He's wearing a suit. And he said, I said, well, I forget the question, but the answer was that the ego, in your mind, all these things we looked at, is reforming, restructuring, and solidifying 6,000 times in the blink of an eye.
All
This
the
is how
time.
this is how serious our problem is. I was like,
Well,
oh, great, that's a real problem now.
well, it is interesting because there's a sense of meditation in this. If we are impermanent, it means that we can adapt. It means that if we move
Yes.
with the tide, and
Yes.
we always say, do not oppose the torrent. Just go with the stream. It's more easy if you oppose to something in a way that, in a dialectic way, you will eventually, you can win, you can lose, but you will suffer. Maybe you will lose energy. What about when we say no self? How do we conceive conservation? How do we the conservative mode? How do we preserve life? Can we? Is it a false assumption? Preserving life.
Well, yeah. No. I mean, no. Interesting question. Lots to think about there. It's a very ponderous question you've asked in the middle of all of this, right? See, it's a very holistic experience living, isn't it? And, life is precious. And that is taught very clearly in Buddhism, also just as clear as all of these things are at the center of these wheels. Also in these wheels are taught that human life is very precious in particular. All life is precious, but human life in particular is very, very precious. And it could end like that. So you better fucking be careful what you're saying, what you're doing. You're going to cause a lot of trouble for yourself and others if you don't smarten up. That's a very Buddhist, crack the whip approach. If you went to a Zen Buddhist monastery, that's how they would talk to you.
So what you're saying
sit up straight, hold your fucking hands in this little circle, face the wall, shut your mouth and sit there and you breathe all day long. So it's like, wow, crazy, right?
So what you're saying is you're making a difference between, for example, impermanence. Nothing is permanent. So we cannot focus on keeping something, but you said also life is precious. So it means that it is not because it is impermanent, we do not have to protect life. We were talking earlier about some practice where they don't eat meat, they don't kill animals. So preserving life, it doesn't mean that impermanence doesn't mean that we do not have to preserve life, meaning action, saving.
Also within the Buddhist teachings, there's this, they separate ultimate reality and relative reality. You got to get up in the morning and put on your shoes and tie them and walk out the door and live your life. This is this is the relative world, right? You got to, I don't know, do your thing, but try to do it well and don't be a nuisance. Don't be a nuisance to people. That's a Buddhist thing. Like, life is a bitch, then you die. Don't be a nuisance. And then that's Buddhism in a nutshell. I love that. Great. That's how I explain it to people. Right.
Now, it's interesting because, like you said, don't be a nuisance. And I think it's do no harm.
Don't do no harm.
Hippocrates hold for doctors. Do no harm. The first one that they should apply. I think they lost a lot of real doctors today. So we covered some vocabularies, and I think about school. You were talking about school of thoughts. Let's talk a little bit about practice methods. We in the West, we understand that Buddhism, let's say it is a practice, a doctrine. You mentioned a little bit meditation. We talked about food a little bit, food habit, do no harm. What are the classic practice in Buddhism outside of meditation? You were talking about food. Some monks, they eat one time per day. They beg, they receive food, and how do they pass their relative time, day-to-day life? Do they meditate a lot? True,
like a Buddhist human who is not a monk, who doesn't live in a monastery, like a lay Buddhist person?
So something like this. So because
I think
just to compare with monks, what we know monks today or in the Middle Age, they were getting up and they were praying all day, and they were doing a little garden, and they were working together, but they were isolated. What's their practice method?
Yeah. Well, every country has the monastics and the monasteries, and they have lay people who are not monks, right? So the monks have all the rules, lots of rules, depending on the country, as we've looked at. Now, the lay people do whatever they want. You want to eat meat? Go ahead. You want to shoot a deer? Go ahead. It's fine. It's up to you. It's your karma. Do whatever you want.
So
you're free to destroy your own life if you would like to. Go ahead. It's a very Buddhist attitude. Just don't bring it near me. I'm trying not to destroy my own life if I could manage it. So here's the problem with samsara. We're not living in a perfect world. It requires management of some kind, or we're gonna get fucked. Bad.
A certain order, and
you can't just be a crazy person and eat whatever you want and act like a complete lunatic all the time. Our society is completely fucked and destroyed by technology.
I will ask you a question, because we know each other since a couple of months, and you always depict yourself as an anarchist, or I don't see you as an anarchist. I see you as somebody. I see you as somebody who has a quest like me, and like you say, Buddhism is not binding people, but it needs certain rules. It is not something that. How did you feel through all those years with your progression in this type of not doctrine, let's say, school of thoughts? Did it help you? How did you
Well, I studied Buddhism academically, then I took an interest in meditation generally in my actual life, and it just was like whatever, I tried it out. And I've tried different schools, I guess, different practices, but really for me, it's only meditation is all that really is good for me. Help me a lot.
When you meditate, because we know, like I say, we know each other, you have a garden, you have a great, big, beautiful garden. Do you think that gardening is a way to have a contact with nature? It is a way to meditate.
Well, of course. Oh yeah, the way of nature, right? That's like being an animist. The wind is blowing and it feels magical. You're like, whoa, okay, things are alive.
Yes. So it is important.
But I don't need to be really I don't even need to meditate to realize that. No one does. So I think that some people need teachers. They need moral ethics to be taught to them, because no one else did. No one else taught them moral ethics, but it's there already inside of you. That's the Buddhist message. You don't even fucking need Buddhism. Just wake the fuck up right now and be a good goddamn person. It's not that hard. Snap out of it, buddy, right now. That's it. That's the Buddhist message. Just fucking grow up, right?
So if we go back to this, when he felt the wind, or when he felt that some people would benefit from his teaching, I think that's what you're referring to. Some people, they need teacher, they need guidance, they need.
I never had the teachers. I never really had good parents. Fine, they're okay. I love my parents, but they're not good teachers. Let's be honest. My teachers in school, assholes. My friends, okay, fine. I needed a teacher or someone. I needed to be an apprentice, maybe not even a teacher. I needed to learn stuff in life. And somehow Buddhism was helpful for that, I guess. But really, all I got out of it was moral ethics and an ability to calm down. And none of that's perfect, by the way. I'm not enlightened, I can assure you. And I'm barely even a Buddhist. I'm not even really.
There's a concept in the Western world that we call the self-made man. And the self-made man, I always refer to Munchausen, who takes him by the hair with his horse. In America, we are self-made man. We create ourselves from nothing. Like you say, okay, you didn't have maybe a good teacher. You love your parents, but they were not teachers. We expect as children to have teachers who will bring us to a mature life, let's say adult life, and then we can take our own decision. But that's another. You're a colorful person. You taught yourself. No, you taught yourself.
I'm passionate about the topic.
Well, from my perspective, when we have those discussions, you arrive with concept that you studied, academically, and then you tested them, you had experience, and then you said, okay, this is good for me, this is not good, I use this, I use that. So it is a way also, it's what you were describing earlier. Buddhism lets you fulfill your karma. Is there a difference between the word karma and destiny?
Let's talk about gold for a second. You brought up gold. The Buddha also taught in one of these sutras about hammering gold. It's very malleable. You can shape it quite easily, so you got to go easy.
Yes.
And the teachings are like good gold. You can don't listen to what I'm saying. The Buddha said, don't even listen to me. I'm offering you something. If you want to fucking try it, go ahead. Help yourself. But don't even believe what I'm saying. The Buddha was like, you don't even need to believe me. But I realized something, and if you want it, try it out. Sit down, meditate, and follow these guidelines, whatever. Like good gold, you can test it yourself and see that, yes, it is gold. Like they bite it with their teeth in the movies, right? You can test it. So I thought that was cool. Since you brought up gold, that made me think of that old parable analogy there. Anyway, what was the other part of that question?
Well, but it is related to the method. We were talking about meditation, food habit, breathing. I will give a simple example. I have hard time breathing since I'm young.
Breathing?
And it's related to the brain, because I'm an intellectual, and I try to intellectualize everything. And I give a simple example. Today I'm 65 years old. I'm not running anymore because I have a hip prosthesis. But I walk. I can run, but my surgeon said it is not recommended. So I use a treadmill. It's okay. But when I was 40, I was running 5-6 times per week. Not long, but 6, 7, 10 kilometers, 30, 35 minutes. And when you run after 5-6 minutes, I'm in good shape, but you have to breathe more heavily. Mm-hmm. And marathoners, people who do marathon, 42 kilometers, 26 miles, they say after 25, 30 minutes, you hit a wall. You have problem breathing, and you have to face the wall. You're afraid, and if you continue 35, 40 minutes, the wall starts to disappear, and you have what they call a second breathing. I tested it, and after 30 minutes, even if I had problem breathing, it is related to the mind. So after 35 minutes, I started to run. I was continuing running, not jogging, running, a good pace, and suddenly your fear disappears, and you start to calm down, and you can go for another 25 minutes. After that, you have another wall. A marathon, for marathoners, they run 26 miles in 2 hours and 15 minutes. Me, most probably I would do 4 or 5 hours, because we are not trained for that. What I discovered is, if you die because you cannot breathe, it will last 3 minutes. So why do you focus on 3 minutes of pain when you have a full life of living? So I started to tell myself, why you're so afraid? Choking, it is a fear. I think it is a universal fear, and people are afraid of that. I don't say I want to die of choking, but I think sometimes we have to put our mind at rest, so we will not have this type of anxiety. Maybe meditation helps. In your opinion, did you feel those?
There's two things I could say. I jotted it down. One is about this wall you've talked about and breaking through them. And the other thing would be about the pain of actually meditating. Mental and physical.
The pain, yes.
Yeah. To start, not always. Some people are flexible. But the wall, people talk about that. You sit long enough there. You think maybe you're going crazy. It's hard to do by yourself. So people sit in groups, So the retreat, you pay the money and you sleep there, you eat there. No one talks for a weekend, a month, 5 years. If you go to a monastery, that's what it's like there. They don't talk and stuff usually, right? They're just meditating all the time. And everything's quiet and they whatever. So yes, people who engage in that life they're going to hit a wall. And in monasteries, they talk about it all the time. People show up there, 2 days later, they're gone.
They're gone. They cannot.
They're
They
gone.
cannot support the silence.
They leave.
You were telling me about. You were showing me. I think it was last Monday when we were preparing this show for today. You were showing me some picture of monks, a woman that was in a cavern for many years.
I got that picture.
I don't know. I don't know if you have it. This is.
I have it.
This is quite.
Let me see.
This is quite fascinating.
Okay, are you seeing it there?
Yes. Maybe you can describe their practice, because that's
Okay.
what we're talking about, methods.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, so we're going to go back to Tibet for a minute here. This is okay. I mentioned Vajrayana Buddhism, the secret diamond vehicle, right? No one's allowed to join this part of Buddhism without initiation and whatever. They won't even. I actually asked one time if I could start the procedures and practices to go into the Vajrayana, which are 100,000 full body prostrations. Do you know what a full body prostration is? You see them doing it. You stand up completely straight, then you lie down on your face completely flat, and you get up. That's one. You do that 100,000 times. Very difficult. And also other things, right? But they never gave me permission to start that. So they always say, no, you cannot join this, quite often too, which I always appreciated. I'm glad I didn't. Anyway, one of the things they do is called a 3-year retreat. Traditional. They sit in a box, just like this one in this photo.
So this is a box. This is a
box, and they do not get out of it. They sleep in it, sitting up straight. Because for various reasons, they believe, that when they're asleep in the meditation posture, they can lucid dream very easily and continue their meditation in the dream world. So now we're getting into the strange, right? Supernatural, where things begin to happen. And people live in caves like this for 20 years, 30 years sometimes. And anyway, there's people around in the world who do strange stuff like this. I don't know. They're cooped up. They do it. Don't ask me how. I can't do this.
Well, you were asking. You said you were asking to go and practice like this. Maybe
not this. I wouldn't. No. I wouldn't do that. And in the Western world, a lot of this is watered down, like a cheap whiskey.
Yes, we will talk about the influence in the Western world in the second.
Here, this would mean having a root guru, somebody who would be an actual guru. This is when this stuff happens, right? And then there's an initiation. Then you're allowed to have secret texts given to you, secret teachings and secret practices, mental and physical, including visualizing stuff. And I never went that far. So I was like, I'm just meditating. I'm calming down. I'm a less crazy person. Meditation's good. Maybe I'll just sneak out the back door of this whole Tibetan Buddhist world and just stop engaging in it. And I basically, that's what I've done. That's what I've done.
So when you talk about those methods, they are extreme. There's one thing we didn't touch. You were talking about the way, extreme method. What about drugs? Drugs. We are familiar with LSD, marijuana, and we were talking together about Carlos Castaneda and the native tribes, the animism. What about drugs? Do they use drugs? Do they use things that help to meditate? Do they use something that will enlighten the mind? Or because we have this tendency, some people, they use drug to evade or to escape from what you were calling relative reality. In the methods or the practice, do they use drugs?
No, absolutely not. They drink. They make alcohol into from barley in Tibet, but the monks don't drink that stuff. No way. No way. Nope. And actually, I brought along with me another thing. It's the 5 main core rules of all Buddhists around the world. Actually, all different schools. A lot of things are similar. We've looked at a lot of the differences culturally, art, music, food, right? But the teachings of Buddhism, there's a real core there, and some of the things will not be changing, or you won't be a Buddhist. And one of them would be the 5 precepts. Yeah, the 5 precepts, and the monks all do this too, and the lay people. So this is an interesting one. And when the first one is don't take life, and don't take intoxicants that affect. They've adjusted it for the Westerners, right? Don't take intoxicants that really fuck you up badly, whatever, right? I don't know. And the other that's basic: don't steal, don't lie. I said the intoxicants, don't kill stuff, and there's one more, some other thing. It's all very basic. Don't gossip or something.
So it is like a moral code.
Yeah, and if you're adhering to those things, your karma is going to improve. That's kind of the idea, right? Because you don't have to sit around and meditate all day trying to get something called enlightenment, which no one's going to get because everyone is blind or has dust in the eye. So now you're not.
Of course, we're all blind. Yes,
we're all blind or have dust in the eye. That's the best you're going to get in some sense. And so it takes many lifetimes to get to enlightenment. You start now. Although in Tibet they teach you can get it in one lifetime. So everything changes. But so the 5 precepts. I think that was my point.
Do you think when you talk about reincarnation, and we have this discussion, my wife and I, about rebirth or reincarnation, and I often say, I do not want to reincarnate. It is not a will. It is not what I want. It's because I would say it's what I hope, in the sense that I would like to not relive not the pain, but I would not want to relive bad experience, because I would want to learn now not to relive them. So maybe that's what's referring to what you were saying, do no harm, try to be in harmony, the middle way, something that is, measure, patience.
Yeah.
It is difficult. It is not easy, especially when we're driving a car in a big city. It can be very hard. So,
well, it's tourist season here in Nova Scotia, and it's all beautiful beaches. And everyone from Toronto is here. It's Ontario license plates, and oh my god, tourists can't drive.
Yes.
They don't know the area. It's not their fault. Let's take the middle way. They don't know the way around. It's okay. I'll just drive 40. Then 60, then 40, then 100, then 40, then 60, all fucking day long.
Yes,
See?
Right.
Take the middle way. Don't get angry. Try to understand what's going on around you rather than react and cut through. Often there's in Tibet, there's a lot of symbolism of swords in Buddhist imagery, especially in Tibet, and a sword that's on fire. And that thing comes down, and it's a double-bladed sword. It's sharp on 2 sides because it cuts through duality, the this and the that of life. Do I like this? Do I like that? Do I hate that and like this? That's all we're doing all the time, like a schizophrenic. And all the time somebody's watching you do this all the time, which is called your ego. Ready to judge you constantly. You're judging your own self all the time. I am a human and I have an ego. I know it. The listener knows it too. Something's going on upstairs.
That's interesting what you're saying about the duality, cutting through reality, separating. And we have this notion of good, bad, truth, false. Cutting in reality doesn't mean that we have to fall on one side or on the other. Nietzsche is in many of his books, he's talking about, funambule, somebody who walks on a wire. Against the abyss, over the abyss, and he says, you have to stay on the wire, the iron wire. You have to stay on it and you have to be in balance between one side and the other. Because if you fall, either if you fall in the truth or you fall in the lie, you fall. And I like the idea, because what you're referring to is trying to cut through reality, but not falling for illusion. It could be a way to maybe to introduce what we will talk about next week, because we will talk about Buddhism in the West, and Buddhism in the West. It will be quite interesting because you touched a little bit about your experience. You touched a little bit about. We will talk about the scandal, but of course we will talk about the beginnings in the West. You will describe how the Western world as a modern practice that is misunderstood for many reasons, and the history of Buddhism has taken many paths, and the myth and reality. When we refer to Buddhism, we often think of only as meditation practice that improve happiness. We then need to demystify the myths and the reality, and often made up of scandal of all kinds. So I think we will talk about this next week. You have some very spicy story. I think the idea is not to accuse, but to recognize what happened during the I would say the history of Buddhism, which is a 3-part series. This part today, next week, the West, the Buddhism in the Western world, and the third part will be the future of mankind and transhumanism. So it's a good way to introduce people to Buddhism and to understand where we are now, because we will.
And I'm definitely not promoting it or anything like that. I'm just trying to give the nuts and bolts, and from my own perspective as a Westerner and as someone who's not taking the woke road with this shit either, that you're going to get some kind of bliss in your life. That's all, whatever. Don't even get me started on the New Age movement. But maybe next time we're going to do that.
But we will talk about it next week, because next week when we will talk about Buddhism in the Western world, we will touch New Age, we will touch
and Christianity,
the perception of people toward Buddhism, but from the West perspective, and we are more mind-centered than maybe heart or. I don't like to use the word energy, but I think there's a big misunderstanding between the two worlds, and you were telling me that they are not. We cannot reconcile them. That would be very difficult.
A lot of people do agree on that, and I remember even walking out of university one day when all this started in Halifax. And I was like, there's a little Zen church down the street. I'm just going to go knock on the door. Hey, I want to learn about Buddhism. What's the deal? Nothing fancy. I was just starting in school, just getting into meditation, thinking, well, maybe I'm a Buddhist then. I don't know, because I was a miserable human growing up too, like everyone else. And I was like, well, I have to search for a life of religion and spirituality to solve some of these problems. I don't have anyone around me with any ounce of wisdom. So I got to search for it. So I just started there, knock, knock, knock. This Chinese guy answered the door, and everything was Chinese in there. I was like, okay, weird. So I'm looking for Buddhism. very honest, right? And he was like, well, come on in, let's have a cup of tea. So Zen. He's like, he didn't even say anything. I was sitting there. I was like, oh shit, very nervous now. And he's a little kitchen in the back in the shrine room over there, and he just starts making tea for me. Quiet. Hardly acknowledges me. I was like, okay. I understand now that he was already teaching me Buddhism from a Zen perspective. Shut your mouth.
Remind me next week. I will find a book, because I have a small book that was written by a German philosopher. It's The Art of Bow, with a bow. When you
Kyudo, they call it archery.
It is. I remember this book because it is the man goes to Japan to learn, and he's an apprentice, and he tries, and every time he hits the target all the time. He's always satisfied of himself, and his master says, "No, this is not it," and he does not understand what he has to do. And at the end of the book, he says, I have to do nothing to achieve. And this book was, I I really like. I will find it. It's one. It's in my bookcase. I will find it somewhere. We can talk about what you're describing.
Zen is like that. They twist logic. Like no other countries do that with Buddhism, but Zen will twist reality. Like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? That's the famous thing, right? You can't answer. Your mind stops working.
Exactly. So, you have any final word for today, David? We passed the 2 hour.
I have one image to share.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this one. Let me click this button over here. I think we've covered it all. My mouth is tired, to be honest, but I think we did a good job.
Yes, of course.
Now, I was going to live stream this today to my audience too, but it didn't work because I was very nervous to start. But
it's okay. You know what we will do anyway? We will prepare the next show.
I'm just going to restream it now. Probably just click play in the background, listen along, and just stream it directly over to my Rumble channel there. Okay, where's that darn photo? I'm going to share this. Could you throw that up on the screen? Tell me when you see it.
Yes, I do. I do see it.
The Halifax Harbor froze over for the first time in history when Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche died here in Halifax. They claimed that was a magical event. Here he is with all of his gold rings, gold watch, drunk as a skunk, giving everyone the middle finger. That's a bit of his thing. I like him. A lot of people hate him. And we'll get into it next time.
We will talk about Buddhism. Him, yes.
Yes, he escaped the Chinese. They bombed his monastery to fucking bits when he was 10 or 12 or something. Escaped over the mountains, nearly died. 100 people in his party were shot by Chinese in the mountains. They made it. No map, no nothing. Through the fucking mountains to China, or to India, to safety. The CIA get a hold of him. And this is my opinion only and hearsay, but there's things on the internet about it. They send him to Oxford. He learns perfect the Queen's English. And then he comes to smack dab in the middle of the hippie movement. 1969.
Yes, we will talk. That will be interesting, and maybe the finger for the Chinese Communist Party. I don't know.
Yes, fuck the Chinese. Yes,
fuck the Chinese.
They destroy his country. It's a damn sin, actually. But he's an alcoholic, and he drank himself to death in 1986 here in Halifax. Yes, 47 years old.
We will talk about him because he's part of the, I would say, the mythology, the Western mythology of Buddhism. And this is quite interesting.
And he's got magic powers too. It's going to get very interesting, strange, and a lot of people are going to hate him when I tell them about him. But anyway,
So anyway, yes. So anyway, David, stay with me after the live will end. We can have a little chat and I would say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this first episode. So we invite you to come back next week at the same time for the second part of the history of Buddhism, in which we will discuss Buddhism in the Western world, some fact and some curious anecdote, like David said. Thank you for watching. And if you like the show, don't hesitate to share it. And we will see you next week. So stay with us, David, and see you next week.
Adios.
Bye, David.
Yeah, we're finished. I'm just saying goodbye to Andre.